Shock! Zelensky delivers a crushing blow to Minsk. The regime shakes as the final act begins. Lukashenko's era hangs by a thread. The Kremlin's allies loosen his footing. Is this the collapse of the Belarusian stronghold? The countdown has started. Minsk can no longer hide behind Moscow's shadow. Lukashenko humiliated. Belarusians mock his policies. The Batka is furious to the point of tears. Meanwhile, Russia is no better off. Belts tighten to the last notch. The people are starving. And Putin, instead of fixing the crisis, is creating a new special service to save his own skin. They don't want you to know this, so let's talk about it. Hello, this is Ukraine Today. Maria Farafanova here with the latest updates. Lukashenko is helping Putin bomb Ukraine. The Russian occupation army has deployed a system of relay transmitters on the territory of Belarus to control strike drones. This has significantly increased the Kremlin's ability to launch attacks against Ukraine's northern regions, expanding the range and coordination of drone assaults. According to Zelensky, some of the strikes, including attacks on energy facilities and railway infrastructure in Ukrainian regions, would not have been possible without Belarusian assistance. The implication is stark. Minsk is not just watching from the sidelines, but actively enabling the war machine.
In the second half of 2025, the Russians deployed a system of repeaters to control strike drones on the territory of Belarus, which increased the Russian army's ability to strike our northern regions, from Kyiv region to Volyn.
Zelensky also revealed that more than 3,000 Belarusian enterprises are working for Russia's war effort, supplying machinery, equipment, and components classified as critically important. Among them are parts used in the production of missiles that terrorize Ukrainian cities and villages. The industrial pipeline of war, he suggests, runs straight through Belarus. Moreover, the president stated that the infrastructure development continues in Belarus for the potential deployment of intermediate-range Oreshnik missiles, an obvious threat not only to Ukrainians but to all Europeans. The shadow cast by this system stretches far beyond Ukraine's borders.
Alexander Lukashenko has long been exchanging the sovereignty of Belarus for the continuation of personal power, helping the Russians circumvent world sanctions for this aggression, actively justifying the Russian war. And now he is also increasing his own participation in the scaling and prolongation of the war. There will be special consequences for this.
Ukraine has imposed a sanctions package against dictator Alexander Lukashenko. The restrictions were introduced due to his assistance in circumventing sanctions against Russia, his active justification of Russia's war, and his participation in expanding and prolonging the conflict. As the saying goes, he played too far and now faces the consequences. Lukashenko plunged Minsk into darkness, and now he's scrambling to justify himself. Meanwhile, people were forced to find their way home blindly, navigating the streets without light. On February 3rd, during a meeting with officials, Lukashenko complained that street lighting in cities is switched on too early and that it costs too much money. As a result, he ordered streetlights to be turned on no earlier than 7 to 8 p.m. and switched off no later than 7 a.m. And this is where such savings led. The sun set at around 6 p.m. that day, but the streetlights were not turned on. Residents were outraged as they had to make their way home by touch in complete darkness. Lighting was eventually restored only around 7 p.m. So much for saving money. In the end, Batka only made things worse. Belarusians are furious. Among the critics of Lukashenko's position was even his youngest son, Kolya.
They lit it up, I said, sort it out. They went and turned the lights off. Late in the evening, they plunged Minsk into darkness. Why? I didn't ask that of you. Where's the beauty in that? And all of it fell on the president, I come home, and the kid turns this on. Why do you need this? He says. Was this necessary? He says, here's Ukraine, here's Belarus, two holes in the world, darkness.
Lukashenko was outraged. He is particularly angered by claims that he allegedly backtracked.
They were running psyops. He gave the order, you see. And then, look, they even called me a sucker, said I retreated. I neither advanced nor retreated. So, how long is this going to continue?
Poor Batka, unable to withstand the consequences of his own decisions. What do you think about it? Belts tightened to the limit. 40% of Russians' personal income is swallowed by food expenses. The rest goes to utilities, rent, and mortgages. Yet even such massive household spending on basic groceries does not shield Putin's subjects from hardship, as prices continue to outspace incomes. When will real wartime scarcity hit Russia? Let's take a closer look.
Dear colleagues, good afternoon. Today we are holding our first meeting on economic issues in the new year, 2026.
We will have to pay for the war.
We are setting an example for everyone of how not to live and how not to survive.
Sanctions, isolation, the breaking of supply chains. There will be no more cheap goods.
Do you eat beef often?
I don't eat it at all. I don't eat meat at all. So what?
Restaurants are closing and food is getting more expensive.
Because prices for everything are rising. But incomes are not increasing. I've lost my job altogether.
In Putin's Russia, a special operation to tighten our belts is beginning. Oh,
Can I swear? Well, I'm for culture. So everything is really bad.
why? Go to...
Piotr and see for yourself.
I'm not satisfied at all. Not satisfied at all. When it comes to meat, listen, I actually feel sorry for those people who eat meat. It's so hard for them.
Even vodka has become a luxury for Russians. The minimum price for 0.5 liters has shot up to 400 rubles.
I definitely received your hint regarding the question of whether this will last forever. Of course, that is simply not the case.
Officials keep insisting that people are just making things up.
I pick berries, I pick vegetables and everything else. So for me, nothing has gotten more expensive. I can even treat someone to some...
Don't worry, Putin has already taken care of you and even made rent and utility prices equal.
Where are we supposed to get that kind of money? People are helpless now, people are exhausted. Vladimir Vladimirovich, please do something. People need somewhere to live. How are we supposed to live? We can't live normally in our own country.
Everything is going according to plan. Despite record high utility payments, this fall is expected. A new increase.
Here in Novorossiysk, only prices are going up, not salaries.
That's the kind of roller coaster we're on. Businesses are closing en masse because of tax hikes. Companies are becoming unprofitable. And no one goes to shopping malls anymore. Look at what the shopping aisles look like. It's all just for rent signs. After 27 years in business, a well-known Russian designer clothing brand has announced its closure.
To get through 2026, to understand what's happening, to get a feel for things.
Now 40% of their income, the average Russian spends on food. This is according to the latest data from Rosstat. Cucumber prices in Russia have skyrocketed. From the end of December to February 2nd, they went up by as much as 43%. People began to compare their cost not only with shrimp, but also with imported fruits.
We live in amazing times. Mango petahaya. It costs less than local cucumbers.
The sale of these vegetables per person began to be limited by weight.
Just now you'll be amazed. Look, cucumbers, 639 rubles. Take it, 639.
In the Moscow region, a pack of 2 tomatoes costs 890 rubles. Third-grade fruits and vegetables have appeared in stores. Rotten parts are cut off, and as it turns out, there is good demand for the trimmings. The Ministry of Agriculture explained the rise in cucumber prices by seasonality, while in the State Duma they recommended that Russians grow cucumbers at home on their windowsills instead of waiting for prices to drop. To hide the real situation, stores write prices not per pack, but per gram on the price tags.
The right to set a price per 100 grams for a product that already has a certain weight. The price should be for the whole package.
Young people say it's easier to go to a neighboring country to buy groceries than to try to get by in Russia.
A review of stores in Kazakhstan. Let's go.
The first thing you notice is that all the names are in Russian, so you won't get confused.
I really like the variety of products. Look, this is my favorite pate. At Piotr, I bought it for about 130 rubles. Here it costs 169, is about 75 to 80 rubles.
This was the situation in Russia back in 2008. The crisis was compared to the Great Depression of the 1930s. In the 21st century, Putin has driven the country into poverty
It's a consequence of a much bigger question, one that I don't want to answer.
You can see what's happening in the country. You do understand where all the money is going, right? Well, that's just how it is here.
The Kremlin dictator is draining billions from the Russian budget to continue the war against Ukraine and is taking the last pennies from Russians' pockets.
Putin's government says, yes, this is just a short spike. By February, everything will calm down, but that's all a lie. The thing is, right now, we're experiencing the first blow. Rising prices. And then the blow will move down the chain. But as you understand, everyone will see a 2% increase. Of course, the state will return something, will offset something, but now a general increase in prices will begin. And as far as we know, already aware of this increase, many food suppliers warned retailers at the end of last year that they were planning to raise prices in the first quarter. Their wholesale prices at which they sell to retailers by 15 to 20%.
The Russian economy ended 2025 with catastrophic figures. And this is not even the peak yet. In Russia, in 2026, almost everything will become more expensive. Housing, electricity, communications, and even dentistry. And the Kremlin continues to try to hide and ignore the economic consequences of its war against Ukraine, Western sanctions, and disastrous decisions in economic policy.
We'll see, of course. The expectation is generally that this period will be a relatively short-term phase.
Putin has created a new intelligence service under his former bodyguard. The Russian president signed a decree establishing the main headquarters of the National Guard troops. Leading the headquarters will be 72-year-old Viktor Zolotov, director of Rosguardia and Putin's longtime head of personal security. All the details about this Kremlin office coming up next.
Putin has created a new special service headed by his former bodyguard Zolotov. I
am proud to serve under the leadership of a man who has once again made our country powerful and great. And I will do everything to make sure that certain individuals do not drag it back to the 90s.
The main headquarters of the National Guard troops will be responsible for maintaining the combat readiness of the National Guard, directing the deployment of its forces, and also conducting intelligence operations.
We need to move forward in order to defend our country. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Expanded internal powers as the main body for terror within the Russian Federation and in the temporarily occupied territories. By the way, they are now starting to form an internal intelligence service, the National Guard's intelligence service. You might wonder, why would internal troops need their own intelligence service? In other words, something completely autonomous is being created.
Decades ago, Putin created the National Guard, which reports directly to him and supposedly for very noble purposes, but in reality to suppress his own population.
The decision has been made. We are creating a new federal executive body based on the internal troops of the Ministry of Internal Affairs. We are creating the National Guard, which will be responsible for combating terrorism and organized crime.
It is truly a formidable and extensive parallel military force, which currently numbers approximately 400,000 active personnel and soldiers. Several heavily armored tank divisions and specialized units have already been officially transferred there. Its direct primary function is, in fact, to effectively suppress any potential internal uprisings or civil unrest within the Russian Federation if it is deemed necessary.
He appointed his trusted associate Viktor Zolotov as the head, who for years led Putin's personal security.
It's clear that your task is to sling mud at everything around you in order to destabilize both the political and economic situation within the country. Before I step over you and wipe my feet on you, I'll put on a show for the entire National Guard personnel.
At the time, Putin claimed that this would help save the budget for the social sector, but in reality, the Kremlin dictator is building up his own army, snatching the last rubles from ordinary citizens' pockets. In
this structure, everything related to weapons, to firearms, is now concentrated. This includes various types of security, the licensing system, oversight of private security companies, and, in fact, the internal troops themselves. We expect that we will be able to increase the efficiency of this work and reduce the costs of maintaining various services.
We will have jobs, and they won't. We will have pensions, and they won't. Our children will go to schools and kindergartens, while theirs will be hiding in basements.
With huge amounts of budget money, the National Guard beats protesters with batons and detains those who disagree with the regime, protecting the Tsar from his own people.
Respect for the rights and freedoms of citizens, for the dignity of every person. I want to emphasize, fighters and commanders, the personnel of the Russian National Guard always carry out their orders with honor. You bear enormous responsibility for maintaining order during mass events, for reliably protecting key industrial and infrastructure sites, and for organizing strict control in such an important area, such as the circulation of weapons.
The situation in Chechnya could develop in different ways, but we all understand perfectly well that Kadyrov himself may not last much longer, and no one knows what will happen after him. Even Kadyrov's army is militarized, and it could also get out of control. This is just one small example. There are plenty of similar, more localized examples all across Russia.
Putin has to expand the security forces because he is afraid that sooner or later he will be held accountable for the war, which has brought only death and destruction to Russia.
This is fear, a very deep fear of Putin's, that Russians will return to Russian territory. Any empire must fight on its external borders. Russians who took an active part in combat operations in the war against Ukraine, who will come home to the heartland of the Russian Federation and actually start engaging in raiding, extortion, forming gangs, people who understand what weapons of any kind are. And of course, to restore order, some kind of counterbalance will be needed.
But an inflated staff and high salaries are by no means a guarantee of complete loyalty. And who knows, maybe the new structure will turn into yet another version of the Prigozhin mutiny.
What do you think about the latest events? Share your opinion in the comments, like the video and subscribe to stay informed about the main headlines. See you soon!